Shalom. Welcome back to part 2 of the response to a white history so dark that some must be schooled by other white people about their evil past. Call halal Yahweh Bashem Abishai Bahasham Rakah Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors to the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. The would-be judges, the 144,000, and the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners among the heathen nations, that have the appearance of the heathen nations. This is not a black only thing. All right, and to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say shalom. And the racial hatred that is propagated in the world today is actually committed by Esau Edom, the self-proclaimed white man. They made it up. Whiteness is made up. Blackness is made up. In all actuality, people are different shades of red and people are different shades of brown. There's actually no such thing as actual black people. The darkest of Africans, the darkest of Indians. I've seen people in India, in Asia, all right, in different parts of Asia, that are darker or just as dark as some Africans. Same thing with some of the people in Australia, the Aboriginals from there, the Japhetic people there, all right. They, some of them in the past, especially before they were raped, robbed, and bred to be lighter complexion. Right, and all that is the hate that was propagated by Esau Edom, you know, the so-called Caucasian, so-called white people. They did that. And in this video, we're on a second half. This was like a 20-minute video. I did a response to the first 10 minutes. Now I'm about to do a response to the last portion of it. So first I want to bring out a scripture. All right, because, you know, this thing opens with the Edomite woman making her hateful opinions, putting them on the internet about what she thinks and feels about so-called black people. And then there's another Edomite male who cuts and corrects her to the core with facts about what white people have done and how they're responsible for it. See, because they don't like to take responsibility for the things, or accountability for the things that they've done, and then the reactions that they get when you do certain things to people. All right, you know, when you take away a person's ability to support or take care of themselves, you suppress it, you know, and make them to live in squalor, and then they begin to act out. They don't, you know, want to be, they don't want to acknowledge the fact that they force people into situations like that. All right. They just, you know, they'll sit back and they'll deny a person food and substance, and then, you know, scoff at how weak they are. They'll rig a race where only they can win, and then scoff at how you lost the race. Just giving you examples. They'll put themselves in a financial position where only they can make money and autonomous wealth that they can pass on generation to generation, while denying that to you, and then scoff at you for having so little and they have so much. This is how they've lived their life the whole time. And it's not until now, you know, that the wickedness is starting to catch up to them, that the same systems that they set in place to affect Jacob, so-called black people, mainly Hispanics and so-called North American Indians, North and South, you know, American Indians for that matter. You know, now that these things are affecting them, they have a problem with it. And so this is another one of those cases where this is James 2:13. For he shall have judgment without mercy, who have shown no mercy, and mercy rejoices against judgment. So the judgment is going to, because they're going to have no mercy for the things that they've done. All right, and in the opening, one of the opening statements, when the guy cuts, destroys the white woman's rant, when he tells us, when he tells her about how these people are victims of rape, robbery, murder, and cannibalism. All right, these are the things. White people not only beat, tortured, and humiliated and their slaves, they actually ate them. All right, and there's a historical record and proof and evidence of this. All right, they were actually eating. There's a book called The Delectable Negro. So they were actually eating them. Okay, thinking that they could become Michael Jordan, LeBron, Mike Tyson, the three Mikes, But I can honestly tell you, though, that Esau, Edom, you will never have the three Mikes. You won't have that. You will never have anything like that. Kobe Bryant's. You will never have that. Okay? Because you're not the salt of the earth. So, let me get this Psalm 64, and then we're just going to let this video play. And through the Spirit, if the Spirit jumps on me to interject and bring out a scripture, I will. But this is Psalms 64. And I'm going to start it. The point is in 8. But I'm going to start at verse 2. And it says, hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrections of the workers of iniquity, because we're behind enemy lines under their authority. All right? These people are illegitimately set up. They're illegitimate people, illegitimate government, illegitimate evil authority that has been placed over us as punishment, and that we have no power to move this illegitimacy out of power. We don't, and we cannot. We're subject to it. That's part of the punishments, as what would happen to the Israelites for disrespecting and for walking away from the law, statutes, and commandments. The Lord sent us among them, and then he took the bases of men, the worst of mankind, the lowest on the totem pole, and set them in charge. And look at the state of the earth today. All right, saying make America great again. Back when you could enslave and eat people, beat them and rape them, take their land and their resources, and many of them, that is exactly what they want. That is exactly how they feel, and they are not ashamed of it. All right, that's what they want to go back to, because they did it around the world. It said, by the sword thou shalt live. That was talking to who? Esau, Edom. All right, this wicked base men. It says, who whet their tongues like a sword and bend their bows and shoot their arrows, even a bitter word. So like in this video in the beginning, the first Edomite woman who says all these nasty, hateful things about brown people, about so-called black people. All right. And then it took another Edomite to correct her, and he really cut her badly. All right. And I hope, it is my prayer, my hope, that wherever her video surfaces, his surfaces where he's correcting and cutting her and destroying all her points, shaming her for everything that she said, because she's just projecting Edomite hate, so-called white hate. All right, she's projecting her own crimes onto people of color, mainly the so-called black people. All right, it says, they encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune and land snares privily, and they say, who shall see them? All right. And so it's like, the movie Kill the Messenger. And there's even stuff out there trying to say that this man was lying when there's evidence that he wasn't. All right. And they did kill this man. This was in the 1980s. I forget his name. In the movie, the journalist was played by, what's his name? Jeremy Renner. The actor Jeremy Renner, who's a great actor. He was in The Bourne Identity. He was one of the last ones. He was in he played Hawkeye in the Marvel movies. And one of my favorite movies and one of my favorite roles was the bank robber that he played in Boston. I mean, the movie The Town, the movie about Boston with Ben Affleck. Great movie. All right. But he played the actor. I mean, he played the journalist who blew the whole thing wide open, that the CIA was actually bringing in the crack cocaine. So remember, this is your brain on drugs, if you're old enough to remember. They were responsible for that. The gangs went crazy in the late 80s going into the 90s. Because, when they introduced that crack cocaine to the streets. Because the gangs that were already bad, they began to separate because of the monies, because of the opportunity to sell drugs. All right. And they wanted this corner and that corner on corners that they actually used to share. So, they created that chaos, the whole, and all that violence that hit America. That was, Edomites were responsible for that. And there's evidence of it. They even got a whole television show, a hit show that came on cable called Snowfall. They gave you the whole breakdown. So it's not hearsay. They really did encourage, as it says in verse 5, they encouraged themselves in the evil matter to commune and lay in snares privily. And they say, who shall see them? And by doing this, they were railroading so-called Negroes, Latinos, because it affected their societies out west really bad. Their neighborhoods, because of violence and the drugs, the prostitution, the whoredoms, the murders that was happening to them as well as a result of this drug that was introduced. Destroys a family, all the crack babies that were born. All right. So-called white people committed that evil, that sin, that hatred, all that bloodshed. So not only did they bring the cocaine into the neighborhoods, and then the funny thing is that it was Edomite scientists that designed and came up with the whole crack cocaine in the first place. And you got heavier sentence for having it, even though it was a cheaper drug, a cheaper version of cocaine, which was a aristocrat drug, favorite drug of Edomites, well-to-do Edomites. They still love cocaine to this day. All right. And you would get a man would have to have a whole truckload of a ton, 2-3 tons of cocaine, and he'd get the same time that the guy that had 5 rocks in his hands got more time than the guy with the whole truckload that happened to be white. Yeah. And it was just, once again, they encouraged themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privily. They say, who seeth them? This is how they operated. All right. And then they would, and then they made money off you being locked up. They had all the money invested in the prisons, the free prison labor that they got. So they made money. So it was serving 3 purposes. They were bringing your numbers down because you were killing each other. They were further destroying you and enjoying it. All right. And then they were making money off you through constantly through their unfair, unrighteous justice system. From the street cops to the sheriffs, to the lawyers, to the judges, everybody is getting paid. The bailiffs and all the people who have money vested in securities in the prisons. I had a famous banker that his wife and daughters were clients of mine years ago. That told me if I wanted to jump into investing, the safest thing was to be invest in the prisons. He even told me, this may sound negative to you, but if you want to really build up your portfolio fast, start small. And right then and there, I realized that I would never make money that way because I have too much of a heart and a conscience. And I knew even back then in the world that, or coming out of the world, I was just waking up, but I knew that system is set up purposely to oppress and suppress my people. I knew that. Finishing Psalm 64:6, it says, they search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search, both inward thought of every one of them, and their heart is deep. So they search and study, Jake, so that they know what you like and what you do and your habits, and then they can capitalize off of it. But God shall shoot at them with an arrow, and suddenly they shall be wounded. And one of those arrows that he's shooting at is with the mouth of the men of the Lord, because we're revealing them. All right. But the main arrow is going to be when those ICBMs fly, when those arrows that fly from one end of the earth begin to fly, which is soon. Verse 8 and the main point, so that they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. So without any further ado, the last portion of white history so dark that some must be schooled by other white people about their evil past.
Which black hair is a big portion of their culture. It doesn't address the rapes, the pedophilia, the breeding programs, none of that. We don't talk about how slaves were rented out. Oh, my ancestors didn't have slaves. Did they rent them? Did they rent them? People who rented slaves were worse to the slaves than the people who owned them.
Yep.
And I said we should reject that heritage outright. That includes any of the words and terminology that our ancestors used to talk about black people.
Actually, you should return all the profits, all the property and the money that you made off of that free labor. That would actually be square. That would be justice.
So I don't understand why there's so many people who say that they're for equality, treating everybody equally. Why you are so hell-bent on being able to use racial slurs. If you say you're a good person, why the fuck do you want to say those things? It just brings us back to the original question.
You're in the wrong line. Go wait your turn with them.
I'm not American. I'm with the British RAF.
All colored sit together at the back.
This is not America. There's no segregation in this country. I will go where I please and I will sit where I please.
Don't make trouble, son. Once you're inside in the dark, they won't know where you're sitting, will they?
That our culture creates and recreates and recreates and recreates. Just think about it, right? In order for us...
Who's going to tell me
you
that
son
all
of a
I
bitch.
needed was one
That
bra
did not happen.
for every single one of
I
my
don't care about your
this
titties,
right here
girl.
is a...
to be in this state where we're always in competition, stemming from this Greco-Roman European mind struct that there's not enough resources on the planet, so we're always in competition. And in order to be in competition, I need to create an enemy, even when there is none.
Yep.
So black folks have always been our enemy because they are the ones that understand the abundance of life. They live a village to raise a child that is a sharing community full of love and enjoyment, and we didn't have that. We don't have that connection coming from where we come from. That's sad, but because of it, we feel traumatized. We're weaponized in our trauma to hate somebody, to see somebody else's success as an enemy to us, to see someone else living in a land that has resources that we seek as an enemy to us. We create that enemy. We don't have to be enemies with black folks. They have shown us love and are waiting to show us more love when we finally stop this mental trauma game of thinking we're in competition and they are our enemy. And we do it with brown folks, right? We do it with indigenous cultures and aboriginal cultures all over the planet. Wherever we have gone, we have caused harm instead of appreciated the love that we were shown. And that's a trauma brain response. So when I speak about the need for repairing the harm that we have caused others, it is also so that we can learn our own humanity and break down and tear down these walls of our own trauma-brained response as white folks.
Let's get one thing straight. I am not a call-out creator, and I don't want to be. I prefer to call in and come from a place of understanding as much as possible. However, we have an even greater surplus than normal of white people that have been on this app causing a lot of harm, and I have an issue with that. I also had a bad day, so I thought to myself, I will do some light research. But everyone remembers this live, right, from a few days ago? The one where Mercedes dropped multiple black women from her panel, but allowed the white bald man, Tom from MySpace wannabe, to interject and speak at length on racism. So we could all tell Tom was problematic, right? But I think it's important to spread awareness before these people get large and platformed, before anyone puts any kind of trust in them. Another thing we're all aware of is Mercedes leading the Gays Against Groomers as recently as July of this past year. So it's interesting to me that Mercedes would be associating with a guy that perpetuates revenge porn and a blatant misogynist who looks at some creepy shit. So I have a couple things for you to watch here. Trigger warning. May cause anger.
The reason this happens is because of feminism. The more that women are able to get like higher positions at jobs, and they've always wanted a man who can pay the bills, right? They've always wanted a guy who's able to, be the breadwinner, all of that crap. So the higher that they get paid, more and more, now they're making a lot more money, but they still want a breadwinner. They still want somebody who makes more money than them. But
now see, this is actually Edomite man versus an Edomite woman right here. But what you have to understand is that they did this to destroy Jacob. This was aimed at the black community, and it worked. There's an outright war between black men, so-called black men, and so-called black women for the most part. Right? They created an imbalance. They elevated the woman over the man, pushed the man, and they've been doing this for the last 50 years. And look at what it's done, what's happened. And now, well, that's a whole nother story, because now that the system is failing, some black women are apologetic. Some of them are too proud. They don't even care that they destroyed their own people, that they've destroyed their own villages, as a common term that's being shared. All right. But now this is happening to Edomites. And so this is his own hate coming back on him. He did this.
Women on average are making more money now. So now it leaves a big chunk of guys down towards the bottom. And so now not only are the good looking ones and the ugly ones all getting the top percentage of guys, but now there's this.
And here's the flip, this thing to that. They freed so many white women now are so far above their men, don't need their men anymore. Many of them are going out with the men that they actually have desired all along. So many pale women are actually lying with and being with men of color, and the so-called black man is more so than any other man of color. All right. And that is something also which creates a lot of hate from Esau Edom, but he did this to himself.
Massive chunk of dudes just left by themselves at the bottom.
There you have the incels. That's where it all went wrong.
Yikes. To make matters worse, poor Tom is not only at the bottom of the totem pole of potential breadwinners for both beautiful and ugly women, but additionally clearly thought that he would have better luck over on TikTok than on the YouTube channel he has. So with his shocking 767 followers, he still hasn't figured out to make his following list private. And Tom, this is concerning. Let's look at the people you followed when you first decided to get on TikTok. So this seemed like a lot of women that were followed by tomfoolery in succession. Okay. This one concerned me a little bit more because there's a child in almost every picture.
What?
Yeah. And then this one is like typical, but like Tom, a little out of your league. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's a nice booty. Damn. But I'm getting an objectifying pattern here. Then we have this one, this one, this one, this one.
Now, it's hard to objectify someone who's, how can I objectify someone who's constantly putting their breasts and their booty on the internet for me to look at? They're really objectifying themselves, and quite honestly. All right, and that's to all women who do that. Don't make that complaint about being objectified when all you do is post your breasts, your cheeks, your twerking ability, your extra long tongue, your ability to put bananas down your throat and pull it back out, and cucumbers and things of that nature, and appeal to the most primal instinct of a heterosexual normal man. He's like wild, because any man that likes women, you see an attractive woman and you see huge breasts and huge butt, and someone putting a cucumber down their throat and pulling it back out. Well, that's something you're probably gonna look at till you get sick of it. Unless you got the Spirit of the Lord kind of makes you numb to all that after a while. But that's the I can't really get mad at Tom about that. I think his name is Tom that she's talking about. But the child in every picture, and that's another thing that's an Edomite thing, more so than any other people on the planet. But I digress.
And last but not least, this page, which has 2 to 4 videos of this person, and almost every other video is a child.
Damn.
So y'all have made it abundantly clear that you're worried about transgender people. Meanwhile, you have white bald men that are following likely young girls and children in general and using their TikTok platforms to talk about what they think is or isn't racist as a white person and spread incel ideology. And I just want to say that this is what happens when you don't deconstruct white supremacy.
Ooh, hold on. Let me bring out a scripture, man. This is Habakkuk 2. And I'm going to start at 15, points to 16. It says, "Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, and puttest a bottle to him that maketh him drunken, also that thou mayest look upon their nakedness." So there, so Esau, Edom is the one who pushed this alphabet lifestyle and this, my one, my body, I'm a woman, my freedom, my body, whatever that shit is. He pushed all this. And now that it's backfired on him. And then he's also the one who pushed who in Hollywood pushed all this pedo stuff, all this child bullshit. Every other movie or cartoon, there's always a scene in it that don't even need to be there. There's not even necessary for the story to be told. And you got to have a man on man, woman on woman, all that weird stuff. It's not even necessary, but they got to do it. They throw it in there. All right. And now the shameful spewing is upon your glory. This is Habakkuk 2 and 16. "Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of Yahweh's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be upon thy glory." So the Lord is promising that he's going to unleash the powers of heaven, Yahweh Shai, to bring that unmerciful destruction. And as he's doing it, he's going to shamefully spew on your glory, on your false racist history. You have to be shamed before you're destroyed.
Groomers are a problem, Mercedes, but it's not who you think it is.
Does hair dye actually cause more grays?
Hair dye likely accelerates grays because it stresses the scalp, so I recommend this to...
Yes.
Now, truth is literally bursting at the seams right now. So much of it is coming out that a lot of these people are having meltdowns. They can't take it. They're like, why are these people talking so much about what we have done to them? And so they take to the internet and try to pretend like they are the victims. Like, why are you all talking about this? Every video that you talk about is about so-called white folk. It has to really bother them for them to actually make videos about this, right? And it also shows that we as a people, because I know I talk a lot about this kind of stuff as well. So for them to be bothered by it and calling it black fatigue.
It's hard not to talk about it because the things that they did have shaped today. All right. And the fact that they can't do it anymore, that's how the things that they did is what put them in the positions of power and leadership. All right. And now that things are being more transparent, that shame is upon them because, they'll write the story that like you said in the first video, slavery happened, but then they don't want to give the details of how brutal and cruel it was and how it gave them financial advantages simply because of the color of their skin. That the people who did all this work and made this place great for fucking free didn't have, or denied, or was taken from them every time that they built themselves up anything autonomously. Men like this with guns and swords came into those neighborhoods and burned them down and took all the wealth for themselves. Built roads and houses right over the graves, the schools, the homes of these, it was over 100 black towns, settlements in America that were destroyed by hateful, evil, racist, pale men like these on the screen. And the justice system was in league with them, the police, everything, the firemen, everybody, the courthouses, because they were able to just take those properties. Those people weren't allowed to come home. They weren't allowed to, the banks that they took over, they just took over them and signed all the monies, all the properties, everything was just signed right over to pale people. And they were able to pass that land, that wealth, right on to their children to this day. All right. And they're angry because they're being exposed and they're being found out. And they're being found liars. You didn't work hard to do shit. You worked hard to oppress, suppress, all right? And arrest the development of the so-called Negro more so than any other people, all right? Of the tribes. And the reason they do that is because they understood that Judah, all right, was the head tribe. See, that's why I said they did a diligent search. They studied who you were. They knew exactly who we are and which tribes we are. All right? They knew. And they knew that by the suppression of Judah, that if Judah never raises up, the other 11 tribes never will. But they weren't able to stop that. The prophecy of Judah and Ephraim getting back together, well, it's happened. And it's too late for you, Esau, Edom, so-called white man. All right? And you're being found out. This is Deuteronomy 33 and 29. And it reads, Happy art thou, O Israel, who is like unto thee, O people saved by Yahweh, the shield of thy help, who is the sword of thy excellency, and thy enemies shall be found liars unto thee, and thou shalt tread upon their high places. And by simply speaking true history, is treading upon their high places, because their high places is all built on a house of lies. A house of cards, which is a house of lies. And by simply telling the truth, you knock down their house. So with that, I'm going to give all praises, all honor and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rekha Kwadash. Double honors unto the apostles. Double honors to the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers out there. Shalom, Abba Babal.